Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another GDT-produced episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, butcher, maim, and otherwise dissect yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 266, recorded on Saturday, May 9th, 2020. Tonight we're talking about a Patreon pick. This one was chosen by the sexual Jay Moore. The movie's The Orphanage from 2007. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else at the table. First up, calling in from Astoria, Oregon, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
How's it going, everybody?
It surprises me every time. I don't know how.
The GDT, I thought you were like suddenly on a crusade against some sort of like toxic bee repellent or some shit. Totally. Sounded like some sort of Monsanto creation that you were hawking.
Talking about that, Guillermo del Toro. He produces this show. I don't know if you or our listeners knew that, but he does. That's factual.
I don't even want to joke about that. That just makes everything that we do seem so much less important.
Whatever. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Hola, mi nombre es Soju, yabish.
Are you trilingual now? What the fuck?
I'm so cultured.
You're still struggling for the buy. Let's be real here.
Struggling for the buy.
You are.
I'm always struggling for the buy, baby.
I know you are, man. I was at your wedding. I know.
Weird. Man, one day I'll be
It's a constant struggle.
And bachelor party.
One day I'm going to be bi. You mark my words.
One of these days, I'll get there.
Just a little bi-curious.
Rob is bi-curious, B-U-I. Am I right, Mr. Blu-ray?
What am I buying? Oh, Blu-rays. I'm buying Blu-rays. Always curious about the blues. Always curious. Gentlemangs, let's go ahead and tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick before we get into the main event here. Quick reminder, the June poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to be talking about this June. The theme for June is Dastardly Ditties, or Dastardly Dads. The 3 movies are going to be Eraserhead, Rosemary's Baby, and The Woman.
Bob?
Justin.
How those numbers looking so far in the middle of May?
Let me tell you. Eraserhead is winning slightly above The Woman. Rosemary's Baby's way on back there. But really, it's pretty early in the month. It could be anybody's
That's always
game.
how it goes. That's why a 3-party system just doesn't work, you know?
Yep, you got to have at least 4 parties.
You just end up voting against your own interests in these poll picks.
There's always one just falling so far behind.
That's just
and then one always
science.
just slightly, behind.
That's right. That's how it works. Don't make us watch Eraserhead.
2 of them lose. That's correct.
Nobody wants to watch Eraserhead. So
okay. Oh, okay. I guess Rob's speaking for us now.
I am speaking on behalf of you. I'm doing this for y'all. I know you don't want to talk about
Quite ironic.
We just a reminder, we have a brand new $10 tier on the Patreon website. We got a ton of bonus episodes up there that are exclusive to that level. I think that we've got like 17 mini casts just waiting to be slammed into your ear holes. Don't forget to check that out. Also, we've got 2 brand new Patreon supporters we got to give shouts out to this week. So big thanks to KDS and Corey GDT for signing up on Patreon. As always, around these parts, we got to give you the straight chilling salute. Here we go.
Here we go.
Slap my ass! Slap me in the ass!
Slap me in the ass.
Slap
Thank
me
you.
inside of my ass.
Inside, please. Thank you, squad, for supporting
Corey and Katie,
Shaboy.
right?
Yep.
The K's.
That's our boy. Corey's got a nice little photography deal going on. You should check him out. That's all I know about Corey.
That's all I care to know.
That is true. Corey, we'll take your picture. Corey Torgerson. Check him out on the Instagram. He's
It just so happened that he took a really nice picture of Bob's new jet ski. We just haven't revealed it.
True, yeah. Bob's new
just holding on to
jet
that.
ski.
Just holding on to it.
Yeah. For a rainy day, when you really need a pick me up, we're gonna drop that Rob's jet ski.
I'm telling you, man, on the penultimate day on this planet, you're gonna see that pic and you're gonna smile.
Also, quick reminder, if you are interested in physical media, you can check out our sister podcast, Let's Get Physical Media, anywhere you get your podcast. We just dropped our 7th episode. We talk about our March and April pickups, specifically. It's like not only horror movies we talk about, but the majority of it is horror movies. So if you're listening to this show, you might get a kick out of Let's Get Physical Media.
Did you get the new steel case of On Golden Pond yet?
I don't know what that is, so no.
Never mind. It's a joke for not horror fans, I guess.
I do not get it.
I don't get it.
Also, on the other side of things, you can check out our other sister podcast, Let's Get Physical Property, where we talk about acquiring real estate and or horror-themed toys.
This is incorrect. This does not exist yet.
Oh my god!
This show does not exist yet.
I'm building up hype. So that
this is going to be great. We need another Fear the Walking Dead sort of situation here. We need another one.
The last bit of my housekeeping is I want to give a big thanks to everybody that hung out with us last Friday during the Joe Bob live watch party. It's something that we plan to host for the next 7 weeks? We're 3 down,
7 more,
7 to go. So every Friday, we host a watch party for Joe Bob's The Last Drive-In on Shudder. We use Zoom to host these watch parties, and we post a link to join the watch party just before 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you are listening and are interested in joining this coming Friday, watch all of our social media outlets, and we will post that link just before showtime. It's a good time, man. The movies this week...
Now, Bob...
Go ahead. Solid. I was just going to say, it's probably my favorite week so far of the 3.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good. I was going to ask you, since I was unable to attend, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how conscious were you throughout the proceedings of the night?
This was the most conscious of all 3 weeks.
Good for you, man. Pick up that slack.
I stayed awake for the entirety. I think I fell asleep probably the last 15 minutes of Deep Red. I just passed out. That's
understandable.
To the whole way. So close.
Jalo can be pretty tough at that time of night.
Yeah.
Jalo.
There's
always room for Jalo unless it's fucking 1 a.m. or
Joe
whatever.
Bob made a fucking Jalo joke, and I loved it.
It's because he listens to this podcast and he loves us.
He pre-ordered the There's Always Room for Jalo t-shirt.
He did. He pre-ordered it.
Around here, that means big money.
Randy definitely made it. That's all I got for housekeeping. Juice, you got a couple things?
No.
Sweet.
I'm clean, baby.
All right. This house is so
clean.
So clean.
Don't plant that shit on me. I'm clean.
So clean. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the main event. We're talking about The Orphanage and kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Well,
let me tell you. The Orphanage from 2007, directed by J.A. Bayona. Bayona? Probably.
Positive that's not the correct inflection. Hey there, Mr. Bayona. You got you a movie?
Bayona. The synopsis is as follows. A woman brings her family back to her childhood home, which used to be an orphanage for handicapped children. Before long, her son starts to communicate with an invisible new friend. And of course, spooky ghosts.
Spooky stuff happens.
Gentlemangs, have you seen this before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy.
You know that I have. In fact, I thought that we watched this for the podcast already. So when I was like, oh, somebody's got to pick another one. Nope. We somehow have not recorded a podcast on this. Yeah, I watched this not too long after it came out. When it was DVD release. But yeah, I would recommend it for sure. It's another great foreign language horror film. We've been going through quite a bit recently. We've just kind of been bumping up against the international releases in horror. And this is no exception to the rule that the ones that make it this far are typically pretty high on the quality meter. So, yeah.
Sweet. Juice, what about you?
I was under the same impression as Randy. I thought I had watched this and I thought we covered it on this cast. And it turns out neither of those things are true. So
I wonder if maybe it's like an episode. There was one episode that we fucked up and no, but
I haven't. I thought I had seen this movie, or like I was kind of, because I thought we covered it, so I was like under the impression that I had seen it, and I hadn't watched it at all. Like I'd never seen this movie.
Oh, you've never seen this? Oh no, my god! So you're blowing my mind again, because I thought for sure we had all watched this together.
Me too. I thought so too.
I've seen this at least twice. Becky saw it with me once before, for sure.
I don't know what movie that's like sticking in our minds that's like correlating with this, but I don't know.
It's a distinctive movie for me.
So it turns out, yeah, I've never seen it. This was my first time watching this movie, which kind of surprised me because I thought I had.
Would you recommend
would I recommend? Yeah, I recommend you check it out. You got to do a little reading if you're down with that.
Oh man, sign me up for something else.
Who has the time?
I don't have that ability.
Yeah, I've seen this before, and yeah, I recommend it. It's a solid movie. All right. That's it. That's how we do that. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning. We're going to get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
You've been warned. All right.
So if you didn't know, it's business in the front, party in the back. So the new Straight Chillin' podcast, we jump right into that review, and then the last hour is the social hour. So don't you worry, we're gonna.
It's always a good idea to base the structure of any of your projects on the mullet. That's just a given.
It's true.
Yeah. We are no longer party in the front. We are now taking the party to the back.
You got to eat your
stick around
veggies.
for the social hour.
Dessert comes later, all right? So just hold on to your short stains.
Really high opinion of our bullshit. The dessert.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about this movie. Also, Jay Moore, thanks for supporting us on the fucking Patreon.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay Moore. He's a big supporter. He's on the Slack. He's all up on the Twitch.
He's everywhere. Everywhere you want to be.
He is hashtag hard with us.
Hashtag omnipotent with us.
I like that. So yeah, this movie starts off with all these little kids running around an orphanage. They're having a good time. They're playing this game. I don't know what it's called exactly.
1, 2, 3, knock on the door.
I used to play like a similar, not like the way that they say it is not the same, but a similar game where you can like do something and turn around, and the first person like to the wall is like the winner or whatever.
Yeah, there are games like this. It's the standard kids game where okay, so one kid knocks on the wall or the door or the tree or whatever and is facing the tree and says a little quick phrase, and the kids can move while she's facing the other way. Think of it as like Booze from Mario. The other kids are a little Booze and they can't move when she's looking at them. And then they have to touch the wall or touch her or some shit like that. And then they run around and chase each other because kids. So.
Yeah. We're not all cool video game nerds like you, Ryan.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a pretty cool setup for later on, I would say.
It definitely comes back for sure. So the name of the orphanage is the Good Shepherd Orphanage.
Orphanage.
Orphanage. And there's this one little kid named Laura, and one of the ladies that works there, like very creepily, just kind of says to herself, like, "Your friends will miss you a lot, Laura." And then that's like they drop the title card and you're like, damn, what the fuck are they about to do with Laura? Fuck.
Laura's fucked.
Yeah, Laura turns out to be all right though, for the most part. Anyways, so we jump to present day where Laura's grown up,
I guess,
and Laura and Carlos are a married
that's
couple.
Not how I would describe what's about to happen.
Look, for the next portion of film, she's fine.
For the most part.
fine.
She's like the Chrissy Orlando of ladies in horror movies. Okay, she's fine.
It was pretty good. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was fine.
Exactly.
Replace it with she, and then it makes sense.
Exactly. So Laura and Carlos and their adopted child Simon move into this orphanage, which has been abandoned. And I guess Laura just wanted to move back there because it felt like home. So they're going to make it their home. And they have plans to open up like a small 5 or 6 kid orphanage of their own.
It's not really so much an orphanage, I don't think, as it's like an extended home for again with kids with issues, but the kids I think have parents or some sort of guardian because they have a party with them later on where they're introducing kids to the area or something. I don't know. It's a little unclear what their plan is with that, but it's clear that like the idea is that she's, her life is kind of formed by being adopted. They adopted a child named Simone, and she's opening up this thing to like sort of continue the legacy because it's shut down. Yeah. So they seem like pretty solid people. Simon, their kid, doesn't know that he is adopted, and he's also sick. He's got an illness.
HIV.
Yeah.
HIV positive.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't know that or that he's adopted.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's like 7. So
he's got the HIV. Damn.
It's no joke.
Yeah.
I'll get you.
So
it's rough. So they move into this orphanage and they're trying to clean it up and make it feel like a home. And they're visited by this old lady who she claims to be a social worker. Benigna. She claims to be a social worker. She just knocks on the door randomly and she's got all this paperwork on Simon. But it's old and she's wearing this little brooch with like really old photographs in it. And she just seems kind of peculiar. She's asking a lot of questions, very personal questions that seem just out of place. And Laura is uncomfortable about answering them. She's like, no, I don't want to have this conversation without my husband home. And she tells the lady to leave. She keeps the paperwork.
The lady can't even answer basic questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels very bizarre and uncomfortable.
Well, wait, now that I'm thinking about it, she has a file on their kid. Yeah. How does she have that?
I mean, my guess is that she stole it because we later find out that she has nothing to do with social work.
Yeah, she is not a social worker.
She's crazy.
We'll get into that later, but yeah, she's not who she says she is. So how she got that is a little bit of a mystery, but she definitely, well, I don't know. Actually, where she does come from might actually play into that. So we'll get to it.
Actually, yeah, there's a lot of holes in this.
I don't know if that's a hole though, because
hang on, I'll poke a hole in later. Don't you worry.
Okay,
you're always poking,
dude. I'm always looking for those holes.
I be stroking.
I be poking. There you
always stroking.
I be poking.
So yeah, the Laura is like sleeping one night and she hears this random noise and she goes out to the shed and then she sees Benigna in there again. Fucking Benigna is like creeping around the property and shit. So she runs her off and Benigna literally just like runs into the woods in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. She's quick for being like 95 or however.
She's spry. Also, like she doesn't give very strong chase right away. Laura doesn't. True. She kind of, I guess, staggered back a little longer than I would have been. I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's true.
And she just kind of waddles her ass away, just kind of hustles out.
Yeah.
So we got this.
They showed a little more of that than I would have expected. Actually, I was like, man, they could have done like a quick cut where it's just like the door slams or something.
Yeah.
And then she runs out and doesn't see her anymore. But instead they just show her like little hustling out like on her little old lady legs.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's just yelling Benigna.
God damn.
Anyway, so we got that going on. And also they're close to the shore and Laura and Simon take a nice little walk to the shore and it's low tide and there's like this
rocky
cave.
Shore.
Yeah, there's this cave, and when it's low tide, you can walk into it and walk around. It's real nice. And Simon has like imaginary friends already, and then he makes like a new imaginary friend in this cave and invites this kid to come back and play with him at the house. And he leaves like a little trail of seashells when they're walking back.
Oh God, yes, come with me.
So that he can come with him. Which
having too much fun.
Randy's just on the bumps. It's too much power.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
So this ghosty kid may or may not have followed them home. The next morning, all the seashells that he left are just like in a nice little pile right in front of the door, which is kind of creepy. So we got that going on.
Those are the setups pretty much. And then the kind of the big catalyst for the rest of this film comes next, I believe, which is, Simone starts acting pretty cold towards his mom, being a no monster and all that shit. And then they have this party that we mentioned before with a lot of, I guess, potential residents, kids that are going to be there and like be taken care of. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's a day school sort of situation that they're planning. It seems like, excuse me. And so there's this big party. It actually looks pretty dope, and the house is amazing, and everything looks great. But Simone's acting like a dick. And Simone's upstairs saying, "I know, I'm not going anywhere with you. You lied to me." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And Simone's like, "You lied to me. I'm not your kid. You're not my mother, and I'm gonna die." And so he's clearly been tipped off.
That argument,
they had a game.
Yeah, that argument happens earlier in the movie. So that the part that you're at, Randy, when they're having the party, Simon is like trying to show. So the kid the ghost that allegedly followed them home from the cave, his name is Thomas.
That's true. I forgot.
Simon's like trying to show his mom Thomas's house is what he refers to it as, and she's like, "No, we don't have time for these games. Hosting a party, trying to get to know these kids and their parents." And Simon kind of throws a tantrum and knocks a cake out of her hands, and then like runs off. And that's the last time we actually see Simon.
But actually, even before that, they do the game where there's like little lost trinkets.
It's like a trail of clues. That's the series sequence of clues.
Yeah,
there's a lot of exposition in this movie, which is one of the big problems I have. So like Simon, he'll just be like, "This is a game that they taught me, and let me tell you about it." And then you see it play out, and then like that happens a lot in this movie where somebody's like, "Let me explain to you the rules about what's happening," and then you see a little glimpse of it, and then we move on to the next explanation. It gets a little tedious after a while, especially towards the middle of this movie.
I didn't really get that so much.
Oh man, it happens constantly. Actually, like that. Like he has to explain it. Like, "Hey, my imaginary friends made this game. Let me tell you about it." And so, like, then the rules are established, and then it plays out, and it has an effect. Like, oh, he finds out he's adopted. He finds out he's sick. But they use that like method like constantly. If you think about anything that has any significance in this movie, that's exactly how it plays out. "Oh, let me tell you about this. Let me explain the rules to you."
That's not true though, because I don't know, man. We'll get when we get to the end, we can talk about that, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so that's kind of the last time we see Simon. He sort of runs off, and we have this bizarre sequence where the mom is like standing in the hallway and she sees this kid at the other end of it who's wearing this this burlap sack mask thing over his head. And so whenever they have this party, all the kids show up and they have all these really like well-made but pretty creepy masks that the kids put on just to like really amp
like
up
homemade
the creepiness.
Paper mache masks.
Yeah.
They reminded me of those like old photos you see from old Halloweens where kids have those great like legit scary creepy masks, and from that segment in Trick or Treat where it looks like kids have very similar masks.
I was about to say the burlap sack mask specifically reminds me of Sam from Trick or Treat, and even when you see the kid without the mask on, it still looks kind of like Sam.
Which same year?
Is it the same
really?
year?
Oh,
is
yeah,
right?
2007.
No, actually, is that right? Let me double check.
I think so.
Yeah, 2007. So there's a burlap sack fetish going through the community at that point.
Wow.
Also, when did The Strangers come out? The year before? 2006, I think. That was a burlap sack.
That's true. That's like, still bemasked people. It's 2008, The Strangers. So,
and also, Friday the 13th Part 2 came out like 2007. I'm pretty sure with the
2007
sack
good year.
Yeah, that's so all those movies. It's a tight cluster right there.
Yeah, that movie was made in 2007, like just in his 20s, as in not
sick burn. So Laura, the mom, sees this sackhead kid, and the kid sort of like rushes her, shoves her in the bathroom, locks her in there, and she's kind of freaking out. And Carlos, the dad, comes up eventually and lets her out of the bathroom. And Simon...
Also, that kid makes a really weird noise.
What's it sound like?
Like a purring. It's like a...
What?
One more time?
The kid, like she pets him. Like,
oh, the Sam Hain kid. Yeah, I mean, we find out the reason for that later is that he's a malformed
we find out the reason for the noise. Can he not spit? Was that it?
He's got craniofacial issues, so I'm assuming that it is issues with swallowing or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
theoretically. Also, because it's creepy and it's a horror movie, and they had to do it.
I see.
They had to do it. So Simon's gone missing. They can't find him. They search the house. Obviously, none of these parents want to leave their kids at this daycare, orphanage, or whatever it really is, because they just lost their own kids. So fuck that. And then we sort of have like a 6-month jump where all of a sudden Simon's just been gone for 6 months. They can't find him. The parents are obviously kind of freaking out about it. They go to like a bereavement group, and they're sort of having a session.
Yeah.
And we find out during that session that Laura, the mom, is like absolutely still convinced that her son is not dead, and that this ghost or this group of like ghost kids have just taken her son.
She says she sees them, she hears them, like she heard some bumps in the wall, all kinds of shit.
Yeah, before the jump, there was a big moment. So she hurts her leg at one point too. They go to the hospital, so she's in a wheelchair for a little bit. And then the night after the party, I guess, they are in bed and the house there's like some big bangs, and she gets up and then she's like real worried, and then they do the jump. Sorry, that's important later. Is the only reason I bring it up.
Yeah, they also have like divers that like go swimming by the cave to see if maybe he
because she thought she saw somebody at the cave. She was running to the cave at one point during a high tide or about to be high tide. Yeah, and she saw somebody in the cave, or theoretically, or at least we're shown somebody in the cave while she's kind of far enough away to be in question a little bit.
Yeah.
And then she looks up again as the husband like catches her with her broken leg. And he's like, there's nobody there. And we look again, there's nobody there. So there's some ghosty shit happening. Yeah. So 6 months later, she's like, they're in a support group and she's clearly not accepting it. And she like, other people are like, yeah, I see my son all the time and all this stuff, he's deceased, but I still remember him and all this shit. And she's like, no, it's not the same.
Yeah, but there was a weird moment. It was I didn't understand exactly what they were going for with that meeting, because she tells a story like, oh, my son has imaginary friends, but they're there. Like I see them and I experience these things. And that's why she feels like her son is not dead. And then there's like this creepy moment. Somebody else tells a story about seeing their daughter in their room. Like, oh, one morning I woke up and I just wanted to go to my daughter's room. I don't know why. And I saw her. She was sitting there smiling and she was happy or whatever. And then they all do this like slow ray, like who else has experienced like things like this? And everybody raised their hand. And it makes it seem like that was a weird thing for me, because then it makes it seem like the town is haunted, because everybody has this very solemn like look, and even are very like slow to raise their hands. Like, yes, I have experienced this. Now
it's a bereavement group. Though. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get that at all. Yeah. It's a bereavement group. Okay. They're clearly trying to set us up with some doubt that she is on the level, I think. And like whether or not it played for you, I think that's clearly the intention, is to be like, well, see, this is part of the bereavement process for people. Yeah. All these people have suffered through hardships and have had some form of, their child coming to them this after their death, and that must be, maybe that's what she's going through. Yeah, even if she doesn't.
I guess it helps set up the doubt for the husband.
Definitely does that too. Yeah, I was going to say
grounded.
Yeah, because he's like, he goes along with a lot, and then later on he hits a breaking point. This isn't it, but he's kind of setting the seeds for that.
So the next scene I really want to talk about. They're leaving the bereavement meeting, and they're driving down the road, and it's winter, and they see Banina walking down the street. She's pushing a little baby stroller, and she gets like hit by a car. Like
she calls out.
She got Mean Girls.
Like, hey,
she gets
like, hey, yo, bitch, where's my son?
Hey, yo, bitch. So Banina gets hit by a car, and Carlos is a doctor. He runs over and tries to administer some CPR, but it doesn't work. And Laura runs over to the baby killer.
It really doesn't work because her jaw is detached.
Yeah.
I would not. After seeing it, you don't.
Where is his bottom lip going in that CPR?
Yeah, he goes
his mouth
to
on
her.
her.
Oh, yes, he does. He has blood on his mouth.
He has blood on. He wipes the blood away from his mouth.
I misunderstood.
It's
that
on
sequence.
his mouth, and he's like,
gotcha.
It's not.
Yeah, but and it's a really effective when you see the blood. You're like, oh, she's really fucked up. Except then they show that her,
which is a cool fucking shot.
Well, who would be trying to do CPR if
he's a doctor? I don't know.
Face ripped off. That's the first thing I wouldn't be like. They need CPR.
That reminded me.
Somebody get some smelling salts.
Freaking Del Toro with like the split chin vampire thing. It looks like that. Like
it kind of does.
It's what it reminded me of, anyways. Which
more
is
brutal.
Yeah, it made for like a pretty solid jump scare, I would say.
It was a solid moment of gore. I was like, oh shit.
But
that's fucked up.
Laura runs over to the little baby cart or whatever, and there's no baby in it, but she finds a doll, and the doll has a little burlap sack over its head that looks like the kid that pushed her and locked her in the bathroom previously. So that's kind of creepy and weird.
And also now she has this collection of dolls, or the dolls are like a theme.
Yeah.
They keep coming up throughout this movie.
Yeah, she finds a doll in her son's bed one day after hearing something.
Yeah.
And then later on, this is much later on, really. She comes to find that there's a doll for each one of the children that were there with her when she was a kid, including the, Sam Hain or whatever kid. And Tomas, I think is his name, Tomas. And,
Tomas.
They're like hidden in this little bench or whatever. And so I don't know whatever that comes into play later, but that's basically where that's coming from.
Yeah. So they apparently they end up going through Boninia's shit, and they find like Super 8 footage and photographs.
So once she dies, we get another info dump. And see, this is another, I want to like point them up as they come in because I'll forget them otherwise. This is another info dump. Like, okay, she had a son. Oh, and she works here when you were here. Don't you remember? Right. Oh, I don't remember. Oh, and let's watch this convenient 35 millimeter film. Oh, or whatever. Like they go through that thing. So it's just another huge info dump that like right after has some consequences that they have to deal with. I just feel like they use it way too much. It gets frustrating.
I don't know. I can like those two instances are the only two that really.
I'll point them out, right?
Yeah,
I understand
because we're actually about to get another scene where they do the exact same thing. Because then she goes and finds the mediums.
Like I don't know how do you
not like this, man.
I don't know. Like this scene, how do you? I don't know. Like they maybe could have written it differently, but I don't know. I don't know what the obvious solution is to.
So then they go find. She's like, okay, this.
Hang on. There's more information. You didn't cover it all. So yeah, Tomas, which is the deformed kid with the sack over his head, is Benigna's kid, and we find out that Benigna worked at the orphanage previously, and the other kids at the orphanage were sort of separated from Tomas, but one day they took Tomas out to the cave on the beach, and they took his mask off, and then they all ran out of the cave and waited for him to see if he would come out without his mask on. He was too scared to because he was deformed, and the tide rose and he ended up drowning, and they found the kid's dead body on the beach, which is super dark.
I thought that was like, it's not, that's, Jason Voorhees. That's like a tale as old as time at this point, a pretty old trope. But the method of the way it was done, I thought was pretty unique, and I liked that a lot.
Yeah,
the cave in general, I thought was a pretty neat flourish,
and it was effective because it starts to pull at your heart. You're like, oh, there's maybe like a monster, but then you're like, oh, he was
a scared kid.
Sad story. Except there's a little bit of holes there, except because there's a picture of all of them together. Like she gets a picture and it's like, oh, there's Benigna. Oh, and there's me, and there's Carlos, and there's Guillermo, and there's whatever. But she has no recollection of this deformed kid who lives under the stairs.
I think the understanding is that she came after.
Yeah, no,
she has a picture.
But also,
she's in the picture.
They do say that the kids were mostly kept separate.
They were kept mostly separate, yeah.
And
I know, but
she
to have
leaves.
no recollection.
She also leaves.
I mean, I don't remember every kid I ever met.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if somebody was wearing a bag over their head, I'd probably remember that shit.
I don't think it's. I think you're splitting hairs a little bit. I don't know if it matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Child, 7-year-old memory. I can't give you the name of my teacher when I was 7 years old.
Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. So they go to like this lecture. This I don't even know I forget the guy's name. There's like some doctor giving a lecture about, Jungian shit about like coexisting with the dead and your subconscious and whatnot. And Laura talks to him afterwards.
That was a cool little presentation. I liked when he was talking about how the Germans see death and doppelganger, but they didn't touch on it a whole lot more.
The doppelganger thing didn't play in as far as I could tell. I was I thought it was. I was wondering why they included that. I mean, I understand they need to like set him up as some sort of authority figure on supernatural shit, but it seemed like it was unrelated, which is weird. Like even I don't know, every movie at least attempts to tie in what they're saying a little bit closer.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it didn't quite tie in the way you think it's going to. But the Laura, the mom, talks to this guy after his lecture. And he recommends, I guess, like a colleague of his who's a medium. Her name is Aurora. She comes over to the house and she does like a seance kind of thing. And they've got like
another info dump.
Yeah,
got to point them out.
Yeah.
I mean, how else do you find this shit out? Like,
they put.
Just saying, it's the third one that we've touched on now. Oh, hey, because not only that,
it's called investigating and denying.
No. It's a huge info dump, and like, this is how time works. It's the past and the present and the future. They're all there, and I'm just saying, it's another info dump that immediately has consequences right after. We have watched hundreds of movies on this podcast, and not every single one of them has info dump consequences. True. Info dump consequences. Info dump consequences. I'm just saying. This is the third one, and I'm not even finished. So to act like it doesn't exist or it's impossible not to have a movie where this doesn't exist is wrong.
I'm not saying it's impossible to have a movie where it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that it happens in this movie for a reason. It doesn't hinder the movie really at all.
I got tired of it.
All right.
Consequences. So yeah, they do the seance. They put like cameras all throughout the house. And Aurora sort of goes into this trance. And yeah, you're right, Justin. They talk about like the past, the present, and the future all like overlapping, and they call it like parallel perception. And so I guess if there's any sort of like ghosty,
that's literally the
house,
thing that leads her to do what she does.
Yeah.
For the rest of the film, like if they don't get that information from somebody who can tell them that information, then that doesn't happen, and the rest of the movie doesn't happen.
Yeah,
it's just a constantly of like tell instead of like her discovering it. It literally is just a huge info dump in the moment, and then that leads to her doing something, and then there is another huge info dump that leads her to doing something. It's constant throughout this movie.
I don't know. There's a scene at the end, which we'll get to, where they kind of like, they don't say a word about what happens. It's like the whole ending is around you making a presumption about how it works. So.
Well, yeah. Aurora walks through the house in this little trance, and she finds the ghosts of 5 kids that are like screaming in their beds, and they tell her that they were poisoned. And she asks if Simon is with him, and when she does that,
she couldn't tell.
Yeah, all the cameras kind of go to static, and then she just like magically winds up back in her chair that's like all the way across the house.
She's just hauled ass back to the chair.
Just hauling ass.
Just hauling ass into static.
Aurora's a fun runner.
That was a really effective scene because it was a moment where they didn't really have to show you anything. It's just a woman, and she's wandering through this house, but they're watching her through these cameras, and she gets this room, and she plays it really well. She's got this like look of horror on her face, and she's trying to kind of comfort the kids, but you can hear their screams through the radio that they're using to talk to her, and so you're like, oh my god, it's really disturbing.
So it's basically proof of ghosts that they've discovered.
Except the husband is still like, this is
and there's a police psychologist that he invites there as well, who's also like, this is clearly a scam, which, you know, in a majority of movies it probably would be, but in this case it's I kind of like that they play that stuff flatly a little bit.
Yeah,
I
agree.
You know, like it would be almost impossible for somebody to convince me that there's an actual ghost haunting my life. I'm like, I would be in that guy's shoes, I think, up to a point. But when you hear ghosts screaming, it's kind of tough to sit there and be like, well, you're just being crazy.
And also that woman just like transporting herself back into the room where she was. I know like you're watching it as it's happened, but
you saw
I liked it because often I criticize, we together sometimes of like, that could have been an easy moment where they used like shitty CGI to make like ghosty kids or something, but they didn't. And it was more effective that they played it straight and people need to learn from that shit.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it was very much like it was Insidious. It was fucking a place I like to call the Further, but before that movie came out, it was basically like doing all of the same tropes as that, I would say, or solidifying that. It just has to be noted that this movie, I think, precedes Insidious in
The Conjuring too. Yeah,
and The Conjuring.
It's got a lot of similarities for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Carlos is like, "Yo, we should probably get the fuck out of this house," and Laura's like, "Nah, can't leave. My kid's here." And the Aurora lady, the medium, she like tells the mom, she's like, "You have to listen." She's like, "You listen, but you don't hear," or something like that. Some sort of, I don't know.
No, she said, I
don't know. It was one of those cryptic fucking ones.
You have to believe to hear or something.
Yeah, I don't know. If you can dream it, you can do it. I'm pretty sure is what it was.
You see to believe, but you need to believe in order to see.
It reminds me of Mystery Men, that bit where they have the Sphinx and he's like, like whatever you say, you just say it and then you say the opposite. And it's supposed to be profound. It's like, if
he's like, I can do it.
Or if you can't master your anger, he's like, I'll be mastered by my anger. Is that what you're going to say? You're going to say that? I fucking love that movie.
That shit is awesome. That's a good one.
He's like, no. It was great. It's a great movie. So yeah, they do that thing.
They do that thing. Laura is trying to pay extra special attention to what's going on, and then like a window shatters, which you don't have to pay extra special attention to.
She convinces her husband. Did you say that she convinced her husband to give her 2 days alone for it to quote unquote grieve? She basically manipulates him a little bit too.
Yeah, her husband's
give her
like,
the time she needs to do whatever the fuck she wants.
I'm done with this.
Yeah, I wouldn't be blaming for that.
It's easy.
You're clearly not doing well with this.
It's interesting to almost try to be like, what if you were in his place?
Oh yeah,
like like in
other movies, the guy is like,
because it was her orphanage, and then they adopted this kid, and he even has. I like they played him so straight because he even like tries to be sympathetic and like couples have gotten over a kid dying before. Like he's doing
everything right. I think for the most part.
And it's still not enough, and it's weird to see
because it's real.
It is, yeah. The woman just
it's presented as real.
It's effective in showing how far off the deep end, I guess, in grief the woman also goes to, because she has this husband. She's like, I want to be like, no matter what, she's doomed. She goes on this tangent of like, I just want to be with Simone. Like, I just want to be with him. And so at that point, the guy is like irrelevant now. The husband, there's nothing he could do.
I don't know that wouldn't be a Baker Act call for me, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, like basically the idea is that she does that and then she's like, look, give me 2 days and I just need to say goodbye. You're probably right, blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't blame either of them really. Before
this happens, actually, there's a couple other things. So yeah, the window shatters and then she goes on like this little like hide and seek game like we see earlier in the movie. Yeah. And then she finds the doorknob, which we don't know what that's about exactly.
She can't find any doors that are lacking knobs. And it's a very kind of like characteristic, interesting knob that's very specific.
But as she's trying to find a door for the knob to fit, she goes out to the shed again, or I guess it's like an outdoor kitchen or something. Where there's a bunch of these giant ovens, and she breaks into one of the ovens because they're all locked.
She sees that locket, right?
Yeah,
too, which is where Benigno was.
Wearing it. And so she breaks into the Banina. She breaks into these ovens, and she pulls all these like big sacks out, and the sacks are full of ash. And as she rips into them, she finds like jawbones and like human remains and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they call the cops, and it turns out that the 5 kids that are haunting the house were apparently poisoned, and then their bodies were burned in these ovens, and their ashes were and remains were put in these sacks. And Banina was apparently the one that did this as revenge on these kids, because these kids killed her kid, and she was apparently in the shed or whatever trying to retrieve these sacks of remains to get rid of them, get rid of the evidence, I guess. So it's at that point, after the cops come and check it out, that Carlos is like, we got to go. We're finding the
I don't know, man.
kids.
You're finding, if you find remains of kids, it's like, and you're dealing with the loss of your son, and your wife is kind of inviting mediums and shit to the house. In that situation, you'd be like, yeah, we need to get going. There's no reason not to, except for the fact that she's kind of been right about everything, and he heard ghost laughing on that fucking thing. And it's kind of hard for me to be in his position and be like, okay, like you might be right, but it's not healthy for us to be in
I am terrified
house with fucking ghosts. So even if you're right, there's no reason for us to stick around. These are dead people.
So she's like, you know what? You leave. I need 2 days alone in this house. And if I can't find Simon by then I'll join you. And he's like, you know what? If that's what you need, okay, that's fine. So he bounces. She stays behind, and she like makes the kids' room look like it does when she was a kid there. Like she brings in all the old beds and all the old bed sheets and whatnot. She makes like a table, and she dresses up in like old garments.
She makes that dope spread of food.
Yeah, she makes a pretty fierce meal, and she lights candles, and she puts all the little dolls in the seats at the table, and she's waiting for the ghost kids to like join her, and it's not working, and she's like, well, what the fuck? So she starts playing that like 1, 2, 3 knock on the wall game again. And,
payoff. Here it comes.
There's the payoff. And then all these ghost kids show up and start playing with her, and it's pretty creepy, but not like super, super creepy. Everything seemed to be okay. And she's like chasing them around the house. She's like, where's Simon? Where's Simon? Whatever.
Again, that's another like the Conjuring moment or what. I think this movie really solidified like the modern ghost story, like medium sort of situation for some of those movies in several ways that, as far as I know, as far as I can remember, didn't really get solidified before. Like they used old tropes and they like used modern sensibilities towards it in a way that's very similar to movies that we praise for those exact sensibilities. So
it's that this one was I guess it's different in The Conjuring. The Conjuring played it more for horror's benefit, where this is more at this point. Yeah, like the kids show up as ghosts, but it's not very like I didn't feel very scared by it. It's maybe a little tense, but they just look like little kids.
Which is better than like 13 ghosts walking around,
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's a little different than why we praise it for The Conjuring, because the way this movie plays out, yes, it's tense and the kid with the bag on his head is kind of scary, but it also has that Del Toro flair where it's like part like fairy tale almost. It's like ghost fairy tale. So it's not...
Well, we're not sure that they're malicious
necessarily for horror. Yeah. I'm just saying it's like different than how we praise The Conjuring, which was directly trying to bring back these things for horror's sake.
Right. I'm just talking about like literally if you think about like the clapping game in The Conjuring, it's literally playing a game that a ghost is playing back. Like that's and doing it in a way where it ends with a big jump scare where some hands pop into screen and grab her by the shoulder or whatever. It's the same. It's using a lot of the same like beats to tell a different story, but it's definitely a similar trope.
Yeah.
For sure. So she's chasing these kids around. One of the kids run into the little Harry Potter closet underneath the stairs, and she chases him in there, and the kid closes the door and locks it behind her, so she's stuck in the closet, and she finds like a hidden door in there.
Then they say that this, like, I really wanted to point out this one thing that I noticed in that scene real quick, which is that she's in the closet and there's like all these like metal bars and shit that are for a play set or something. And she's trying to move them around and trying to look around. Like the door shuts on her and she's like, she can't see. So she opens the door back up slightly. And you're like, of course, supposed to wonder, okay, is the door going to slam shut now? What's going to happen? And the door starts slowly eking forward and she's looking at it and it has the same doorknob as the one that she's found. And just as you sort of make that realization, a hand slams the door, and you can see a kid slamming the door, and a jump scare that I think is one of the most effective jump scares I've ever seen, because it goes, and rather than like just creating tension and then the payoff, it's tension, then a realization, and then the payoff. Like just as you get a puzzle piece fitted into spot, that's when the jump happens. And I thought,
because your brain is trying to do
your brain is just like, oh wait, and just as you're saying, oh wait, it's boom, then you have the scare, and that's super fucking effective. I thought it was great, and I just wanted to call it out.
Super fucking effective.
It's so effective.
So she's in the closet. Now you're in the closet too, and she finds this hidden door, puts the doorknob in there, and it works. And there's a staircase. She goes down into this hidden basement, and there's all these drawings all over the wall, and they're all autographed by Tomas, and apparently that's where Thomas used to live. So she finds this bed, and she finds a kid sleeping in it, and it's Simon. She wakes him up, and she's super excited to find him. She starts holding him, talking to him.
He's doing the little girls from The Shining thing, like, why don't you play with us, Mimi? Please stay and play with us thing. It's not played for creepy things, but that's what he's saying to her. It's like, why don't you stick around and play? It's like, okay, you've been lost for 6 months, and now your first concern when you see your mom after being trapped for 6 months is, why don't you stick around the house and play? I don't know. Something's not right here, obviously.
Actually, at this point, it's like 9 months, because they do a little bit of another jump.
Yeah,
but true. So he did.
So she tells him to like close his eyes as she's holding him, and the camera's like sort of spinning around her very quickly in circles, and she's like telling him to think of all the things that he wants to do with his life, and you know what he's going to do when he grows up, and you know, whenever he opens his eyes again, all the ghosts will be gone, and then it'll just be them two alone in the house. And so he I guess allegedly like opens his eyes up, and then when that happens, the camera stops, and she's holding a blanket with him in it, and when the camera stops, he's not in the blanket anymore. The blanket's like totally empty.
The blanket just drops.
And you're like, what the fuck? And she turns her head, and then you see a kid laying on the ground next to the stairs, and
broken handrail.
Yeah, broken handrail above him, and we find out that that's Simon.
And then we have our brain blast.
Yeah.
Then we have our brain blast, which is it shows, which is fucking heart wrenching. And I remember this like a little bit through the movie, like probably 20 minutes before this happened. I was like, oh fuck. So what happens is it shows the scene from earlier when she's searching for Simone around the house and running around chasing, and she goes into that same under the stairs location, and a bunch of these fucking metal pipes or whatever they are fall out. And she's like looking around, and there's people are noticing her, and she's trying to be discreet. So she hurries up and throws them back in, and it shows it jamming into the door, basically preventing. Like this is he had specifically said, I want to show you where Tomas lives, Tomas's little house. So this is where he was trying to show her, and she said, no, not now. He ran away to this location, and then she unknowingly pinned him in there. And then it also shows from, like Justin said, from the next night after that happened, after he disappeared, it shows the mom listening against the wall and hearing bangs, like a loud bang. And it's implied, or it shows his body at the bottom of these stairs, implying that he was trying to get out, fell, trying to get out, and died that way. So in effect, she's roundabout unintentionally responsible for her son's death. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Bummer. So Laura,
that's a real bummer.
It is. Laura picks up her son's body, and she walks upstairs to where all the kids were used to sleep, and she's sort of just like holding him, sitting in the window, and she overdoses. She takes some medicine that they used to give him for his illness, and she overdoses, and then she sort of goes to sleep holding her son, and then it shows them both, quote, wake up, and they're now ghosts living in this house, and then all the kids that were also in the house already, kind of run up to her, and they recognize her. They're like, "Oh, Laura, you grew up."
The blind girl recognizes her by touching her face.
Yeah, you grew up like what Wendy and Peter Pan.
Wendy and Peter Pan.
Yeah.
That was a good little correlation that they did, because he was reading Peter Pan earlier, and he was talking about how he wasn't going to grow up because the ghost told him he was going to die, and like, oh, I'll never have a job or whatever he says.
That's another reason.
Like, man,
that's another reason I was actually like, I was wondering. I texted you guys after this movie, and I was like, "Did we?" I thought we had seen this before anyway, but like then I saw that, and I was like, maybe we watched this as part of. We took a lit class in college together, that was about centered around the idea of lost children who are lost and found. So we read Lord of the Flies, we read.
We did read Peter Pan too,
and we did read Peter Pan, and I was like, maybe there were some movies we had to watch in that class. Maybe this was one of them, and I guess not, but it's perfect for that actually, because
we watched Pan's Labyrinth instead, but this one would have fit perfectly too, because it's like a house full of orphans who are literally lost children in more ways than one. In the case of the kids, the kids who died, they were lost in two ways. They were lost because they didn't have a home of their own, and the home that they did have, they were murdered at, so they lost their lives, and the people that would have cared about them theoretically. So it's a good class.
It was a good class. And I don't know. And the Peter Pan correlation is very strong. And like, it's maybe I could see it being accused of being a little like overbearing because it's just kind of, but they only mention it like twice as far as I can remember, maybe 3 times. So I kind of think it worked pretty well. If they had mentioned it more, I would have had the same, that argument, but it's a little, maybe a little chintzy when you look at it too long.
So
what our listeners don't know is that I got accepted into college at the age of 12. So
that's they know it now. I'm sure they're
Mr. Wunderkind.
They're so glad to know it. I'm sure.
Yes.
So Laura is basically a ghost taking care of all these other ghosty kids, and essentially, like, her plan from the beginning to have like an orphanage of like 5 or 6 kids is now realized, but in the afterlife instead of like in real life.
In the ghosty life.
So Carlos comes back to the house and realizes what's happened, which is, I'm sure, pretty fucking awful for him. And so he makes a little headstone out front for Laura and all of the other kids that had died there. And then he walks inside and he finds this little St. Anthony pendant that he gave to her earlier in the movie when she was trying to find Simon. I had no idea what St. Anthony was the patron saint of, but apparently he's the patron saint of lost things.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob, for ruining trivia.
Oh, well, we got to talk about it, right?
Thanks for ruining Catholic trivia for later, Rob.
Catholic trivia.
Thanks, Bob. You know how hard I work on this segment?
So hard. He gives her that. He gives her that earlier in the movie when she's looking for Simon, and then right as she commits suicide, she's sort of holding on to it, and the weight of her arm sort of drops and rips the necklace off of her as she sort of finds the ghost of her son. Anyways, so sorry, go ahead. He walks back into the house and he finds this St. Anthony pendant on the ground. He picks it up and then he sort of looks up at these doors that are opening, and we don't see from his perspective. We see from the other side, so we don't know exactly what he sees, but he has this great big smile on his face, and we assume that he sees Laura, and then that's when the movie cuts and the credits roll. That's pretty much the movie.
I didn't assume that he saw Laura. I just assumed that he realized, she must be at peace because this was our deal.
I did.
Yeah, you could take it either way.
The door opens.
Yeah, the door
opens. I mean, he doesn't have to see her to assume her presence.
That's true.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
I don't think I'd be smiling if my dead wife walked into the
Well, I mean, it might be a consolation when you lost your wife and your son, and you're like, well, at least they're together because I got this pendant, and that's what that means.
Yeah.
So
I took it as more a metaphor, like, I took it that way too. She's taking care of the kids.
Yes.
Come with me.
Come with me. I don't know so this movie is like kind of it feels kind of a haunted house paint by numbers, but I think that's largely because we've seen so many movies that were probably influenced by this. I don't know that this movie itself is really just like checking the boxes, so to speak.
You know what though, this movie made me think of, and the way it shifted its tone, and I guess maybe because of the rug it pulled a little bit and how it focuses on the kids. It really reminded me of The Others, which actually came out, I was looking at this earlier, 2001. Right. I feel like so even though, they did do some things that came out before, like the Conjuring stuff, I feel like this was heavily influenced by
that's definitely along the same lineage. I think this is just like another waypoint on that line of haunted house tropes with families, and the all of them center around grief. I mean, that's what Hill House was about, for fuck's sake. So it's been going on since at least Shirley Jackson was writing shit down.
Shirley.
So
don't call me Shirley guy.
I will not.
I'll call you Swirly guy.
Shirley Stains. All right.
Yeah. So it feels kind of paint by numbers, I guess, with the exception of that last like 20 minutes or so, where you have that like massive realization that Simon's death is essentially accidentally caused by his mother, which is just like emotionally wrecking. And then of course we've got Carlos.
That's just a gut punch.
Carlos seeing his dead wife, or at least feeling his wife's presence. The very end shot there is also just like an added punch right to your gut. They just like really shit in your emotional cereal.
It is a little bit. I was a little conflicted because I was like, at one point I was like, I prefer that they end it with the shot with her with the kids almost, where they're like, oh, you aged just like Wendy, and they're all together. I didn't feel like the Carlos thing added a whole lot other than like, what happened to Carlos? I don't know. Yeah, I almost would have preferred that it ends with the shot where they're all like, oh, it's Wendy, or like, oh, it's her, ha 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 ha. I don't know why. I felt
think
like
it could have ended either way, but it's to me like the complaint I have with that is not so much that it wasn't well enough done. It was that it was just one more element, and this movie does. That's like, if there's a big complaint I have with this, and it's not big, but the thing that I kept coming to was like, okay, it really just seems like, and maybe it's because I'm too savvy to this kind of movie at this point.
Too savvy.
I mean, I've seen too many Conjurings, seen too many Furthers, but it just seems like they set up. You can see the pins getting set up for the strike later on. You can just see each chess piece being put into the right place, and you can kind of see how it's going to play out. I was like, well, obviously something terrible is going to happen before that pendant gets back to him, and I just don't. Whether or not you needed like 6 or 7 instances of those pins being set up to be knocked down, like it just seemed like one more element that wasn't 100% necessary. But that said, the way they played it was pretty straight, and that's kind of the strength of this movie, is that it's not in like, if you take each trope on its own, it's not incredibly unique. Each trope isn't incredibly unique. It's just kind of, like I said, along the lineage of haunted house movies, but it is well done and taken seriously, and the acting specifically from the lead is so strong that it sells it. So it's really, I think, a testament to the directing, the acting, and the cinematography that some of these tropes don't land with a thud, because it very easily could with a lesser batch of creative people behind it.
Yeah,
totally. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we rate this thing? No.
No.
All right. Randy, you were kind of winding up there. Out of 5, how are you feeling about The Orphanage?
I think so. This movie, I've always liked it. It's definitely on the positive side for me, for a number of reasons. Some of the stuff I just laid out, the strongest thing being the acting, the cinematography, and the intentionality with which everything happens, I think is strong. The general like premise, like sort of, it has a bunch of tropes, but is well supported by the text and like the events of the story. So they don't really land with a thought. It's like, you're not getting jump scares from a cat running cross screen. You're getting a jump scare because, like, right as somebody discovers something that's helping them solve a mystery, a central mystery to the story. So, I mean, those are the key differences that turn what could be a paint by numbers B movie affair to something a little bit better. And I want to praise it for that. And especially the lead, who I want to name drop her here, but Belanroida. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not, but she did a great job, and I was very, very invested in her story throughout. I like that the characters have relatively reasonable reactions to most things, for the most part. Justin, to your point that they like do a lot of like exposition, I think that's true to a point, but I also think that in a movie with a central mystery like this one, you've got to have like a step-by-step walk to the conclusion. You can't like just jump steps necessarily. So I think that that's not an unfair criticism, but it wasn't one that bothered me because the nature of this movie is, on top of being a horror, on top of being a movie about grief, ponderance of grief, it's a mystery as well. And speaking of the ponderance of grief, like the biggest negative I saw in this movie, I think, or probably one of the biggest criticisms I have, is just that I'm not sure what the movie is saying overall. Like it, as a story on its own, it's a nice encapsulated story. The poetic payoff, enough heart-wrenching gut punches to leave you like feeling like you felt something, and enough scares to where like I think the average moviegoer would be satisfied as a horror, like somebody watching a horror movie. But it doesn't. I'm not sure what the subtext is beyond a ponderance of grief. Like beyond that, like it's about lost children. It's about like, so what, are orphans just happier being orphans? Like the movie ends with our lead dying, like basically committing suicide, literally committing suicide to be with her son who has died due to an act of accidental negligence on her part, which is understandable, but it's also kind of glorified afterwards by the text of the movie, even up to the point of showing her husband being happy with the way it turned out relative to the fact that he no longer has a wife or a son. So yeah. I just think that's maybe a little iffy for me, because it's just, I don't know, should we really be saying like this is how you deal with grief? If it is a ponderance on grief, is suicide what they're advocating here? Are they advocating anything? I mean, I think every movie has some kind of subtext, whether intentional or not. I'm not sure. I'm sure this movie didn't intend for it to say like a grieving mother should kill herself to be with her son, but I'm not sure that it's not accidentally saying that. So that's probably my biggest beef with the overall, result of everything in the movie. All that said, those are my big points. I think I'm going to give this movie a 4. I think it's really well made. I think it's really well acted. It looks great. It's got some really cool tropes that they play really well, but it does have those other issues that I talked about. So room for improvement, 4 stars.
All right. Juice, how you feel?
For the most part, I actually did like this movie, even though I've been given a little bit of a shit show. But I did get frustrated with it, and it felt like at times it either didn't exactly know what it wanted to be, or it felt like it had to do certain things in order to get some attention, because it didn't feel like it was necessarily committed to the horror idea or even being like a horror film, but it almost felt like it felt obligated to include like scary scenes or scenes of tension, because ultimately I felt like the ending, aside from Carlos, like the 2 previous endings where she discovers the son in the basement and he's dead, and then she ends up with the orphans, like I thought that was a really well landed heartstring, like, oh man, like really emotional, impactful ending there for the story that was told. But there are a lot of things leading up to that I felt frustrated by. Her like not knowing the kid, and just how it all plays out. I didn't feel like I was unraveling the mystery with her. I felt like I was just witnessing things as they wanted me to see it, which is, I think the mysteries are tough because you want to be like kind of involved in it. I didn't feel involved. I felt like I'm just waiting for the next info dump. Is what I felt like. So I didn't feel like I was participating. And really, once you discover what happened, like, oh, he just got stuck under the stairs, there's no way to figure it out anyway. So they keep throwing these little like tidbits at you, like, oh, maybe if you had watched closer and start like the Sixth Sense or something, maybe you could have figured it out. But really, no. Is how I felt about it. So it lagged in the middle for me. There are portions that I think didn't necessarily contribute to the overall story and were maybe obligated to make it seem more horror-based or tension-based. Like I didn't know why that woman was carrying around a doll with the bag on its head.
Which woman?
Like the one who got her face ripped off. I don't know. There were just aspects of it that I thought were a little off. But overall, I did think it was a good movie, and that ending really was kind of the payoff for me. It was just the middle that kind of lagged, and I was frustrated by the overall storytelling. So I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Cool. 3.5 from Juice Stains. This
Bob,
movie... Yeah.
What did you think about The Orphanage?
Let me tell you what I thought. This movie is kind of all about the last 20 minutes for me. There's some pretty creepy stuff leading up to it. Specifically, like, the masks and finding these the children's remains in the ovens. There's some pretty creepy stuff along the way. But it does, at this point in 2020, feel a little bit routine in a way, and it didn't
really feel that way that much in the time to me. Do you remember that? When I first watched it, I felt like it was more unique than I feel like it is now. I
didn't see it right when it came out, but I believe I could see that being the case anyways.
I just wanted to...
Yeah, but the last 20 minutes or so, when you really just get pummeled emotionally, and you see all of these terrible things unfold, it's just sort of it's crushing. To Randy's point, I don't know that it has something that it's really trying to say necessarily, except for maybe always go to your kids' make-believe friends' homes.
Yeah,
always.
I know exactly. That's the thing is what does she do wrong? What is the moral of the story for a mother who's I guess I should always be ready to play pretend with my kid, even with a shit ton of people at my house.
Yeah,
to speak with us both.
Yeah, I don't know that it has a point other than to be a scary, super fucking sad story, which is fine. Yeah. Not every movie has to have this, grandiose point or anything like that. I think it's fairly well done. It's fairly well landed. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit too much exposition, and it starts to feel a little bit fatiguing. But other than that, it's handled pretty well. I don't think it's not too clunky. It's handled gracefully enough, and I think the ending really justifies everything that comes before it for sure. I don't know. I don't have too many huge complaints with it, but I think I'm feeling a 3.5 on this one as well, which is going to put our aggregate at a 3.7. So let's go ahead and jump over to our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about The Orphanage.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, gentlemen's. We have here the Rotten Tomatoes segment of our show for newbies. That means I'm going to ask these two gentlemen's between 0 and 100%, what percentage of reviews they thought were positive on RottenTomatoes.com. And that's for the critics and then the users. So we're going to do one at a time. So starting with the critics, we'll start with Bob this time. Bob, what do you think the users gave, or the critics rather, gave this movie out of 100%? There are 177 total critic reviews counted. So
I feel like it's pretty positive. I'll go with an 80%.
80%. All right, Juice, how about you? What are you feeling?
That's a good get. 82.
82. You just got $1, Bob. This score is 87%.
What?
87. So you were both in the neighborhood, but Juice was two doors down.
Whoa, make it 3 doors down. And
now we're talking.
Love me when I'm gone. That's what. There's a tie in there, man. Peter Pan. Fuck that. This movie's all about 3 doors down.
Superman.
Yeah, fucking Superman. Jesus Christ. All right, let's move over to the audience score. There are actually
another band from Rob and Randy's time.
Ah, yes. You just know it by osmosis, of course.
I know it because it's cool to be retro.
Yeah. Yeah, all the kids these days are listening to fucking 3 Doors Down because it's retro. Yep, that's why that Puddle of Mud thing was such a big hit.
Puddle of Mud thing. That thing.
The incident.
The thing. thing.
We all fell in.
Aren't you being a little stupid?
Welcome to the mullet section. That's the party.
Three Puddles Down, my favorite band.
Three
All right.
Puddles.
Now it's time to cut loose. Time to put on the sweats.
All right. So out of 100% juice, we're going to start with you this time. What do you think the audience, the users, gave this movie? And bear in mind that there are 67,000 and change.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Probably a bunch of shills that just pandered.
Oh, man.
I'll
What?
go very similar and say 85%.
Okay. Very similar. Bob, what's your similar guess?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty similar. I'm going to go 84.
84%.
$1 me down, Bob.
Well, he $1 in the wrong direction because the score is 86%.
Bob?
I thought for sure when he said 85, I was like, "Oh, Bob's gonna $1 this bitch and get it right on."
Oh shit!
Damn.
Nope. I was wrong.
Fucked yourself.
So was Rob. So here's what the
Story of
critics.
my life.
Here's the critics' consensus for the Rotten Tomatoes. It's deeply unnerving and surprisingly poignant. The Orphanage is an atmospheric, beautifully crafted haunted house horror film that earns scares with a minimum of blood. Except for poor Benigna.
Yeah. It was minimum. That's why that scene was kind of effective there because I wasn't expecting it. I was like, "Oh, that bitch is
that and her broken leg, I think, are and I guess his deformed face, but even that,
yeah,
they didn't show enough of that to be.
Did you guys think that his face, whenever they showed him without the sack on his face, it looked a little bit like Sam from Trick or Treat, or was that just me? Did you guys get that?
I could see that, but I didn't think it. No.
I did, but no, no. I mean, it just looks like deformed.
I can see where you're coming from, but to me, I was like, "Oh, that looks like a really, really, really good Halloween costume."
I mean, same as a pumpkin.
That's why we're not looking at it for very long.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sam is
like
a pumpkin boy.
I mean, he's not just a pumpkin, but
Pumpkins.
Pumpkins. Anyways, cool.
So no, I did not think this kid looked like a pumpkin.
Oh, okay. Is that all you got for Rotten Maters there, Randy? You good?
What the fuck else you want, man?
Damn it! I don't know. You might have something to say. Sometimes you read other things.
Here's a negative review for fun. Alas, there's no moment at the end to justify the mounting tension. What?
Yes,
there's no scream moment.
There's a big one. This person didn't watch the movie, obviously.
That person is not bothered by the idea of a mother accidentally killing their child. That's for sure. Not at all.
Panina wrote that.
I do that to all my kids. That's why I have none now.
To all of my kids. Let's go ahead and get into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Now that Rob's ruined all of it.
Oh, God, Rob. Why do you have to know who saints are and shit?
Why do I even put time into this?
You know I'm Catholic. Did my religion ruin your good time? Sorry.
That's my response to this conversation.
Damn.
I will start with this one, which is a pretty, it's an interesting piece of trivia. When the writer told the little girl who plays the blind orphan that she had pretty eyes, she replied, "Oh, do you like them? I picked them out myself." What he didn't know, she was diagnosed at a very young age with an eye disease that was going to leave her blind. One of the last things her parents did, while she could still see, was let her see a big selection of glass eyes and choose the ones she wanted.
Yeah, they do talk about that there's a blind girl a few times, and she's the one that feels Laura's face at the end and is like, "It's Laura."
So that was weirdly kind of dark.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
There's just like a lot of like little flourishes in this movie. Just a lot of them.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll let you guys guess this one since Bob already ruined my other one. How many times can I say this? So this premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, where it received a standing ovation that was very long, in my opinion, especially after watching this movie. I did not feel like standing and ovating, but it is less than 20 minutes. How long did this standing ovation last at the Cannes Film Festival?
It's less than 20 minutes? How?
Yeah.
Well, that's... Goddamn, I hope that's really high barometer for those.
You would think.
I guess like I'm gonna go 10, I guess.
Okay.
That seems like long for fucking anything.
Bob?
12.
12. Randy got the old ding-a-ling, baby.
Ooh,
10 minutes standing ovation. I don't feel like I've ever felt the need to cheer on anything for 10 minutes.
Dude. Yeah.
At that point, I feel it's like almost like a circle jerk cheer.
At that point, it's just a troll. Like, good for you, honey.
Yeah, let's just
well
keep
done.
going.
Pelosi clap on.
Yeah,
Honey.
5 minutes in, and you just gotta keep clapping.
Says the man who would always start the slow clap in the theater.
Not for
after
10
watching
minutes.
Well, all right.
Yeah,
All right.
Quite ironic.
So this scored the biggest box office opening for a film in its native Spain, outgrossing a previous film. Boys, do you know what that previous film was?
I thought the name of the movie was Boys.
Boys. Let's let Rob guess first, since Randy got a ding-a-ling.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
This outgrossed another Spanish movie.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to embarrass myself if I take a guess at what a Spanish movie is.
Yeah.
You guys know it.
We know it? Okay, could you give us a date range?
Can you look at my eyebrows?
What, is Eugene Levy in it? What are you doing?
You're just raising your eyebrows.
It was 2006. I'll give you a year.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to help you.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
So I guess the year before, really, because this came out 2007.
Yeah.
So it just broke the record a year later, which is
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe fucking Spain. I don't know I don't know. I can't guess. If I guess, I'm gonna guess a movie from a different country, and I'm gonna be embarrassed. So I decline.
I have no fucking idea. Just tell us.
Pan's Labyrinth from Chipotle.
What's that? I almost said that. I almost fucking said it, but I was not 100% sure that it was Spain.
Coward.
I thought that was a Mexican
All right.
production.
All right.
Whatever, man.
So yeah, it's just the previous year, Pan's, which is kind of nuts because Pan's Labyrinth, I don't know, is a juggernaut in my mind, but better than this film.
Well, it was a juggernaut enough to get Del Toro to some producing money, it seems, to make this one.
Yeah. Also, there's I wanted to point out that there's a Scream in this point. I know we always praise the Hereditary Scream, but she did a good job with her.
Oh yeah, that's true.
My Child is Dead Scream. It was, I believe that shit. Let's see.
Get his Blade Scream.
Oh, here's another. Del Toro was in this movie, but he was uncredited. Do you guys know what role he played in this film? Did you see him?
I'm trying to think of where he could have shown up. Was he at the party? Maybe.
So Randy says party goer. Rob, what's your guess?
Yeah.
Randy, party goer. Good guess.
Kind of have to be either that or maybe at the very beginning. He might have been in the very first.
Was he? He might have been in the crowd around Benigna as she lay down.
Ooh, that's a man. Randy's got the guesses.
Oh, was he at the bereavement circle meeting?
Yeah, maybe.
Man.
That's my guess.
No.
That's my guess.
All of these
was
are
it
wrong.
none of these? Yeah, okay. I had a feeling none of these were right.
He plays the doctor at the emergency ward who tends to Laura after she injures her leg. So he's the actual doctor who treats her.
What?
I don't remember him. I don't remember that character showing up. So well hidden.
Pan's Labyrinth was a Spanish-Mexican production, by the way. That's why I didn't want to guess it, because I thought it was just Mexican.
Oh.
There you go.
Hybrid.
There you go.
Didn't know that.
Maybe it says...
Sounds like good choice for us, Bob. Well done.
Right.
All
Dodged a bullet.
I don't know. Let's see. The top grossing film in Spain in 2007, outperforming Shrek the Third and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
No way. Those two masterpieces?
Totally.
Somebody's big in their goddamn britches on that shit.
Yep. That's about it. There's not a whole lot more really interesting things. They shot in several different caves because it was really hard to light, and they had a house. This house was real, but I guess they ultimately ended up shooting 80% of the movie in a sound studio anyways after they just recreated it because it was easier, I guess.
Probably easier to get the camera around and shit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
Sweet.
Cool. I guess you know what time it is. It's time to go hunting.
Cooter of the week.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was the cue.
Yeah.
That was.
All right, cool.
Juice,
Let's hunt them.
Juice, what are we doing?
Yeah. We are hunting Cooters. Cooter is character type. It is exclusive to Straight Chilling Podcast. So if you hear anybody else talking about Cooters, please let us know so we can send a cease and desist. Cooter.
We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here.
So Cooter has to hit 5 different points. These points are sexual deviancy, smug arrogance, manipulation, attire, and overall patheticness. If you hit 3 of these 5, you are considered Cooter. Anything higher is just icing on the cake. So the Cooter cake, that is. So boys, do you have any people that might hit on the Cooter?
I was writing down the points because I always forget all 5 of them at once.
Somehow.
Pathetic, manipulative, sexual, attire, and then ego? Is ego the last?
Yeah, smug arrogance.
Arrogance. Okay. So my immediate gut instinct was to scream at the top of my lungs, Benigna.
Benigna!
But now I got...
Let's break her down.
Yeah, let's break it down here. I think there's certainly a level of patheticness going on there. I mean, it's sad what happened, but she also murdered a fuck ton of kids. So there's some manipulation.
Kids?
I mean, she's a Voorhees. She's a Pamela Voorhees.
Blind. Come on.
Yeah, kids with problems
they're orphans.
Orphan.
One of them is blind. God damn.
Burned them. Poisoned and burned them. Yeah. As far as I know, she has no sexuality to speak of. Her attire is, I guess, appropriate for herself. Except those glasses are a little, they're a little Coke bottle-y. It's time to upgrade, Benigna. And then ego. I don't know if there's much of an ego here. Maybe a little bit in the idea that she comes to this woman's house and starts questioning her.
Yeah, so she manipulates for sure because she lies about being. So that's probably her biggest one.
The biggest
manipulation. And then what she does with the kids, I guess we could throw into the pathetic. Also, she keeps her kid
she keeps
under the stairs.
Yeah, she keeps her kid under the stairs. She also keeps a doll of her kid and pushes it around in a pram. So
she also, makes instead of encouraging her kid and building him up, she makes him wear a sack on his head.
Yeah, you're a little ugly, so you're gonna wear this. And I don't know, maybe he chose to do that, but we don't know.
Maybe. And let's see, attire. Damn no.
No, I'm not feeling it. I don't think she hits enough.
I don't know if she hits enough now that we're breaking it down. She just was the immediate reaction. Is there someone else?
There's not a lot of people in this movie.
I'm not getting a Cooter from this movie personally. I'm not.
I think she's the most prime candidate, and if she's not cutting the mustard, then I don't know what else we can do.
Even the husband was pretty underdeveloped. Nobody really got a lot of screen time outside of the main wife. So
she's definitely not a Cooter. So
yeah, definitely not. For sure. So I don't know, man. If it's not Benigna, then it's probably...
Maybe it's the orphans for murdering a child by taking his sack away and making him go in a cave.
I'm about to take your sack away.
Ooh, I'm going to take your sack away, baby.
I'll take my sack, yeah.
Give me that sack. Give me that sack.
We're going to get erected.
I'm getting erected, baby.
Anyway, so I'm down with a no Cooter.
It was a marriage to the beast.
Cooter free, certified.
Yeah.
Cooter free Sunday. Cool. Let's go ahead and what are we talking about here? We got some.
It's the social hour.
We're talking about what we've been.
Time for everyone to turn off the podcast.
Let's get social, okay? Let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Oh.
Hey, gang, what you been watching?
Kick off my shoes.
Put my feet up.
See
Get
what's
them mini
going
quiches
on.
hot.
Randy, what you been watching this week?
I have not been watching a whole lot of note. It's just I've been pretty busy this week. So most of what I've seen has been, an episode of King of the Hill here or there, or an episode of Schitt's Creek or something.
Squeal.
King. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that. The only thing that I would make mention of besides that would be I've been watching a lot of a YouTuber called Lindsay Ellis on YouTube, obviously. She's pretty well known in that area, but for people who don't know, she just kind of like breaks down like media stuff. So she does a series called what the fuck is it called? Shit, I'm blanking on it. Loose Cannon, it's called, and she talks about like, for example, she would dissect the character of Death and all the incarnations of the character of Death that we've seen throughout the years in different mediums. So Death in the Sandman comic series, and then Death in Bill and Ted's Big Adventure, Death in the Seventh Seal, and shit like that. Sometimes it's characters like that. Sometimes it's like Hercules or whatever, shit like that. And then she does a bunch of other stuff as well. That's all really smart, really well researched, and pretty entertaining, I got to say. So I would recommend that. But short of that, there's not a whole lot I have to add to the what you've been watching conversation.
Cool beans. Juice, what you been watching?
Let's see. I watched a movie called Dead Sushi, which is a Japanese film from 2012. It's a like zombie comedy. And I watched that because I need to talk about it on the Horror Apocalypse show coming up this upcoming week, I believe.
You got a sleeper promo there.
Yeah, if everything works out time-wise, I will be talking about Dead Sushi on the Horror Apocalypse this week, so you can check that out if you need a little more soju in your life, which don't we all? I also watched Prometheus because I'm still on that Alien kick, man. And I hadn't seen it in a while, and I forgot how like deep and kind of confusing that movie can be, but it really still left me thinking a lot. I was like, wait, what? And this and this. And so I also then watched some YouTube videos trying to explain to me like what the fuck was going on in Prometheus and how, and then it kind of makes more sense. I was like, oh yeah, it's all kind of there, but for some reason it feels really convoluted. And also it matches the flow of Alien actually really well, since we just covered Alien a couple weeks ago. Like nothing hardly happens in the first hour, or like the monsters don't start coming out until like the first hour, and then it's like balls to the wall. But it was actually pretty solid. I remember liking it, but it actually was pretty solid. Following back up on that. So I actually have never seen Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection, and I plan on watching. I'm just going to keep it going. Keep it rolling, baby. So I'm curious. Have you guys ever seen Alien 3?
Yeah, I watched it right after we covered Alien, actually. And
okay.
Damn.
God damn it.
Damn.
What'd you say? It's what? Oh, and damn. Okay.
Damn.
Yeah. Both of these came out. Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection both came out in the 90s. So a little skeptical. 90s doesn't have the best track record, especially with sequels. So I'll watch them still. Anyways, I am still watching Community, and I just watched their 4th season Halloween episode. They do a Halloween episode.
Season 4, you said?
Yeah. This one was like Pierce's Haunted Mansion or whatever, but throughout the series, they do Halloween episodes pretty well.
Season 4 is the year that is widely disregarded by the fans. So I'm wondering what you think of season 4.
It's all actually the Halloween episode was only, I think, episode 2.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Let me know your feelings when you get to the puppets episode.
Yeah, they're leaning very heavy into the like, Abed is crazy and he imagines things that are television, and it's like getting kind of old, but we'll see where it goes. I've also been playing BioShock 2. So I played BioShock on our Twitch, and I was having a lot of technical problems on Resident Evil 3, losing a lot of footage. And so I've just been playing BioShock 2 in my free time without streaming it. And I think I might try to do that for the series, because I love the BioShock series, and the world building that it does is really interesting. So I think what I'm going to try to do is cover the individual games in the reviews on YouTube like I normally do. And I think I probably like need to do a mini episode on our $10 level just on like the BioShock world, because it's like really deep and rich. And I love that series. So I think that's what I'm ultimately going to end up doing. So there's no footage up on Twitch, but you'll probably get a review on just the like 1, 2, and 3 kind of like close together. And then I might like drop a mini episode on just talking about the world and stuff. Because it's really good.
I'm excited. I've been wanting to play that game for years, and it's at the end of this month. It's finally coming out in a remastered format.
Yeah.
So, fuck yeah.
You should. I would love to talk to you about it.
I've heard that it's great from so many reputable sources. It's tough for me to say that it's to not be excited about.
Yeah. And Jay Moore, he was really big on when I was streaming BioShock. So I know he likes it. So I'm a guy, might be kicking out some reviews for you and a mini episode if you guys are interested in BioShock. So, but yeah, that's about all I've been watching and doing and whatnot. So, Bob, what you been watching?
Let me tell you. You were throwing some shade about horror movie sequels that were put out in the 90s. Let me correct you real quick.
Set me straight.
I watched Night of the Demons 2 from 1994 for the first time.
I've never seen that one.
Didn't suck.
Hey, all right.
That's everybody, the bar we're at. Okay.
That's the one.
Around here, that means big money.
I mean, yeah, I say it didn't suck, but I also enjoyed it. It was good, I would even say.
Which, on a scale of how good is Demons 1 to you?
Oh, Demons 1 is like a classic for me. It's
or Night of the Demons 1. Is it Night of the Demons 1 or is it Demons?
We're talking Night of the Demons.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, Night of the Demons. From 1988 was when the first one came out. That's that's probably I don't know. I haven't seen it recently, but I'd want to give it like a 4.5 out of 5. Pretty high.
I like that movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering the comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't we cover it? We didn't cover it on this. That's another movie.
It was.
I've been trying.
It's been on at least one, maybe 2 or 3 poll pick options.
Maybe that's why. And I think maybe it was a movie that was included in our 31 Days of Halloween. Maybe a couple.
Probably was. Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm thinking.
It's definitely a Halloween centric film.
Yeah.
The sequel is very similar to the plot of the original, except instead of just having a bunch of random kids show up at Hull House, we've got these teenagers that are orphans. They're at a Catholic orphanage, and it's on Halloween, and they're having sort of a little Halloween party at this orphanage, and there's a handful of them that sneak out that night to go to the haunted Hull House, and of course they run into Angela, which is the demon. The demon from the first movie. She's still haunting around there, and these kids try to do a sacrifice. They try to sacrifice a virgin, and it doesn't work out. And then they end up bringing Angela back to the orphanage with them. And of course, there's a crazy dance scene, much like there is in the first one. There's a bizarre tube of lipstick where some weird shit happens, much like there is in the first one. There's some crazy.
Oh my god, is there really?
Yeah, man. There's some crazy kills in it. It's
that may be a little Austin Powers-y of a retread, I think. It's pretty specific.
It's pretty similar, but it's fun enough. It's not. Is
it going in someone's pee hole or something? What's going on?
Oh, you're close.
Oh no!
Anyways, yeah, it's pretty good though. I would recommend it. If you really dig the first one, I think you'll dig the second one. Faux show.
Is it Halloween centric enough to where I should save it? You think?
Yeah, I mean there is legit a Halloween party, so it's fairly Halloweenish.
That doesn't get too much closer than that.
Yeah, so if you feel weird watching that in May, I understand, but I'd recommend it in the fall at least. Other than that, I haven't been watching too much. I've just been working my way back through The Sopranos for the 4th time or whatever, and of course watching
Damn, dude.
No reservations because
Don't stop believing.
Those are my comfort food. I just throw them on anytime, watch them, and Lord knows I've got some time to kill, so I've been watching both of those.
What, Bob? You ain't got shit going on?
You need to watch all those baby blues you got sitting on your show.
Those baby blues. Ain't that the truth?
It is.
Bad
that
finger
is the
flavor.
truth.
Well, I did buy Night of the Demons too, and I watched that. Anyways.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that. That's all I've been watching. We got one more segment to get to. We got to get to our Hotline Scream. If you are listening to us and you'd like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be played on next week's show, You can hit us up at 904-638-3231. We have 3 voicemails this week. I think the first one we got here is from Jim G. Baby.
Hang on real quick. Our prompt last week was what movie, or have you ever walked out on a movie? And if so, which movie did you walk out on and why?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you guys stifled my story about that for this week. So
I told you to save it.
God, saving it. It's been hell saving it.
It's the social hour, Randy. We need
oh my God, can't be social. All right, let's hear what Jim G Baby has to say, and then we'll get into more.
Let's do it.
Yo, what's up, crew? G Baby. Calling in for this week's prompt. What movie am I walking out of? I have walked out of one movie in my life, and it wasn't dog shit because it was too scary. In fact, it was 94, I think, is when it was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. My aunt took me when I was 94. I was 10, and my aunt was like a horror freak, and my mom told her, no scary movies, nothing like that. So of course we went and saw a scary movie. And her favorite series, favorite franchise was Nightmare on Elm Street. So when the new one came out, she's like, okay, cool, I'm going to take you. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And then I'd say probably the first 20 minutes when like the 1-2 Freddy's coming for you, and there's like this loud ass banging at the front door of the house in New Nightmare, I just like lost my shit. And I ran out of the movie theater, and I was hunched over, like in the corner of the lobby of the movie theater. My aunt came out and she's like, what's wrong? And I felt super shitty because that's her favorite series. The movie just come out and she's jacked to watch it. But luckily she's super cool and totally understood. And she's like, she didn't make me like go back in and try to watch it like I would do probably. But yeah, that's the movie that I've walked out of. There's been plenty I've wanted to walk out of that are dog shit, but that's my walkout story. All right, fellas, keep chilling.
We actually have some audio recording of Jim after that movie, after running out of that movie, and here it is. That setup was way too long for that joke to land, but whatever.
Hashtag appreciate you. Thanks for the call, G Baby. It's our boy.
So New Nightmare, that's not one I expected. I like that movie quite a bit. And I could see at 10 years old it being pretty freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, the 10-year-old thing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he didn't lead with that, and I was like, well, I mean.
Yeah.
He's probably the same height as Tom Cruise in 2018, so.
And now now he loves horror movies and watches them every week.
Probably has at least as many Thetans.
At least as many Thetans.
Yeah.
Sweet
that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you got a pretty cool aunt, Jim.
Who do you think here has the most Thetans?
Turn her on to the podcast. Let's hear from that aunt.
Who has the most?
Thetan cast.
The most what? Thetans?
Yeah, on the cast.
That's the new segment. Who has the most Thetans?
It's definitely Justin.
Is it like golf scoring where the less Thetans are better, or is it standard scoring?
I assume it's the more you have.
The more Thetans you have, the more
the better you are.
The better you are at Scientology.
At Scientology.
At science. I'm real good at that Scientology.
All right, let's hear what I think the next one, Bob, is Jackie B. Should we? I think actually Jackie.
Yeah,
B.
we got a double tap here from Jackie. Let's hear what Jackie has walked out on.
What up, boys? It's Jackie B calling from Chicago. It's been a minute, but I just wanted to call because I saw your Hotline Scream topic today. Had a special place in my heart because it takes a lot. It takes a real garbage movie for me to walk out, especially when, this was probably a year ago when I went to see this movie. It was The Mule by Clint Eastwood, which, oh man, I have a special place of hatred in my heart for this movie. I went to go to one of those really nice theaters with the chairs that you can lean back in. I think I spent like $14. I don't know what compelled me to spend that much money on this movie in particular. Maybe it was because I think it's probably because I hadn't seen a movie in a while and I was just bored. All my friends were busy, so I went to go see this movie. And I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but if you haven't, save yourself the misery. If you have, then you probably, I'm guessing, understand why I walked out. There are not one, but two scenes in this movie in which Clint Eastwood has an orgy, which this dude must be, if he's not 90, he's definitely late 80s. And he's like hooking up with these like 20-year-old girls. And the first time I was like, all right, if I directed a movie and starred in it, yeah, maybe I would like have myself hooking up with these like hotties or whatever. But it was just, I mean, by the second one, I was like, yeah. Anyways, it pissed me off. And I feel like if I could summarize that movie in a whole sentence, it would be, Clint Eastwood's a racist, but he's old, so we're gonna forgive him for being racist. I can't remember exactly what the word is, but there's like this one scene in that movie where he's helping this African-American couple with some car trouble, and he uses, I think he says, like, maybe it wasn't ethnic, or he says something like super offensive, and there's probably 10 minutes in that movie dedicated to that scene. And anyways, it really pissed me off. That movie's terrible. Don't ever see it. And yeah, I love the episode that you guys did on Alien. I just finished listening to it out with my dog. I agree. That movie is, I think it was Heidelberg said, I would probably classify that movie as, if not a perfect film, close to perfect. Anyways, keep chilling, guys. The Mule is a terrible movie. All right. Bye.
So we have walked out for racist orgies. Pretty good reason to walk out. I've not seen that movie. Have you guys?
I will say I haven't seen The Mule, but I agree with her with just the idea of Clint Eastwood. I was watching one of his movies. It's not one I walked out on, but it's funny that she brings this up. It was Gran Torino, I think. Wait, is that a movie that he directed?
Yeah.
And there was like a character named like Spider or something, like some it was like a black person or so, like a Spanish person or something. And I was like, no, I'm out. Like the way just he treats ethnicities is so like racist, and he's just this old kind of piece of shit. I completely, as she was telling the story, I was like, yeah, and I just like shut the movie off. I was like, no, yeah, I'm totally. It's funny that he's making movies where he's banging 20-year-olds. That's pretty funny.
I just like an extended sex scene with fucking old ass Clint Eastwood. That's more of him making a wish than a movie. Yeah. That's more of a dreams come true prize for him.
Almost him like using his power, like, oh, at least I can like roll around and pretend I'm sleeping.
Oh, it's almost like a man taking advantage of women in Hollywood. That doesn't happen anywhere else, so.
He is 90. He's 90 years old.
90.
He is 90.
That is a 90-year-old peener.
Who wants to see a sex scene with a 90-year-old man?
He turns 90.
No one.
He turns 90 on May 31st of this year. So he's
so he's only 89. So okay, it's all good. It's all good. 89. He's 89.
Randy,
it was
you're
a
like kind of
marriage to the beast.
Your audio's clippy for some reason. I don't know why.
Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, we got one more voicemail to play, also from Jackie. Let's see what else she walked out on.
What up, boys? It's Jackie B. I'm calling again because I just remembered a funny story about, this is not a movie that I walked out on of my own accord, but I remember when I was probably like, I think I must have been like 9 or 10 when this movie came out, but I was staying with my aunt and my mom, who my aunt is a pastor at her church, really conservative, very no-nonsense type of lady. But I remember we went to go see a movie, and for whatever reason, she picked Knocked Up, and I just didn't watch the trailer, didn't know anything about Seth Rogen or his type of comedy. But I remember we were sitting in the theater, and we were probably about like 20 minutes in when my mom was like, "Why did you bring my 9-year-old daughter to see this like clearly adult film?" And I remember she had like stormed out of the movie. She like tried to get her money back, and the lady who was working at the theater was like, "The movie is called Knocked Up. Like, I don't know what you thought you were going to see." Like, I think she's like so sheltered that she like didn't even know what that slang term meant. But yeah, I remember cracking up with my sisters about it afterwards, and I ended up finding it on the internet and watching the rest of the movie at home. So I just thought that was a funny story and wanted to share it with y'all. All right, I hope you guys are doing well in quarantine. I'm loving the content. It's been keeping me entertained and keeping me relatively happy in the midst of all this shitstorm. So, yeah, all right. See you later, guys. Bye.
I'm really glad that we can we can create the best possible quarantine atmosphere for Jackie.
Quarantine content coming at you.
That's pretty fucking hilarious. So, yeah, it's called Knocked Up. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, how are you going to walk into a movie called Knocked Up?
Also, I just looked it up. Yeah, it's got an R rating. So even if you didn't know the term knocked up, why would you take a 9-year? What, she said she was 9?
Yeah, 9.
To
they straight
an
up
R-rated movie.
Show a birth scene. Like they show a baby.
Yeah, they show a birth canal baby.
When you're 9, that's fuck you up.
I mean, that fucked up a lot of 20-year-olds. I knew them.
And then these kids these days, let me tell you what, she went home and found the movie on the internet at 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn, Jackie. Watching
Jackie,
some
you out there?
Baby.
Somebody's I know it was past the time of Napster by that point, but way to go. Way to go with that Napster foo.
Way to go with Kazaa or BearShare or whatever.
LimeWire, whatever the kids use these days.
Yeah, whatever.
BitTorrent,
in 2007, LimeWire.
LimeWire, man. Got to get all the MP3s. Got to get
like
new Eminem mixtape or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever was cool.
That reminded me of a story though. Like my mom took me to my mom and my aunt took me to see Titanic when it was in theaters, which my mom covered my eyes during the one breasticle scenes, which I was there not by my own choice anyway. I didn't want to be there. She took away the one thing an 10-year-old boy would have enjoyed from that movie. So I sat there for 3 long boobless hours.
She took it from you and you never got it back.
Never got it back.
Randy's still bitter about that shit.
Still bitter. Still very bitter.
I wanted to see those tits, Mom. You should call her.
Mom. Let me see them tits. That's what I'm going to talk to her about Mother's Day tomorrow. Hey, Mom, you know what? You robbed me of some yabos. I demand
you owe me, Mom.
You
send
owe
me some
yabos,
pornography,
Mom. That's probably not something you should be sending your mom.
No, Mother's Day is going to be weird this year. But yeah,
you owe me.
Where are them yabos, Ma? Come on.
Mom,
give me a DVD or a VHS, the 2 VHS copy of Titanic, so I can freeze frame on the yabos. You remember that shit?
Double V. Yeah,
I thought this whole world was swimming in fucking Titanic VHSs for like 2 years.
I remember seeing that on the internet because
Oh God.
Yep.
Because
also the other time, the time I walked out of a theater, Rob, were you with me in this time? Like, I think you were, maybe. But I walked out of a movie by the name of Epic Movie. And if you're familiar with the Epic Movie Ouvroir, or the movie Ouvroir, then you are familiar with the idea that they are absolutely scraping the bottomest of barrels for what could be considered entertainment.
I actually have seen part of that movie. It's wretched.
It
is absolutely
it's so bad.
Absolutely.
I don't think I was with you. I do know that I've seen approximately 15 to 20 minutes of that movie and couldn't stand much more than that.
It's literally like it was like the height of the point at the point where those movies stopped, because it started with like Scary Movie and Not Another Teen Movie, which I'll stand by those movies as being at least cutting edge enough and funny enough. Certainly
funny enough. Yeah.
Not Another Teen Movie, I think is genuinely pretty hilarious to me, but Scary Movie's pretty good. And then the scary movie started trailing off, and then they started making just like a word and then the word movie, and then it was a movie. And these movies consisted of nothing basically, but references to things. And the idea is that you would see a person pretending to be Paris Hilton on film and you go, ha 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 ha. And that's it. Like that was the level of humor they had. It's like, oh, it's Paris Hilton lookalike. Oh, Paris Hilton lookalike just got crushed by an Oprah lookalike. Good shit. Good shit. Really doing the Zucker brothers proud.
We need to start another sister podcast where we cover it.
Rantcast. We just rant about
Rant and Randy cast.
Yeah, I walked out of that shit after some people pretending to be Chronicles of Narnia people were told about an epic quest by a beaver, and the girl goes, "Oh my god, a talking beaver," and then runs over and kicks the beaver away with her foot, and it flies away. And I was like, that beaver is me, because I'm the fuck out of here. Were you with me or not? I can't remember now.
I was there for that, for sure.
Okay, we walked out to as a group decision, right?
Yeah, that was also when we got free
that's
movies.
Good enough for me, right?
We could watch movies.
Yeah.
So like leaving it didn't mean a whole heck of a lot. We're like, yeah, fuck this.
Actually, no, it did. It meant more because it was not good enough to be a free movie.
It's not good enough for it to be free.
Still don't want to see
it. It actually means something worse.
Yeah.
Damn, we used to get a lot of free movies.
Yeah, we did. Free movies for life was the promise.
I haven't been paying for movies for a long time.
That's what happens when you work at a movie theater for 6 months. You get, 10 years.
That's what spoiled me. I said, "What? Pay for a movie?
What are they like? $4? That's crazy."
Juice, let me find that stream.
Juice, you and I walked out. We walked out. I know we mentioned this on the show before. You and I walked out of The Hills Have Eyes remake. During that terrible rape scene. It's just rough. It's rough.
Yeah. It's the scene where the husband is burning alive while his wife is getting her titty sucked by a mutant who has a gun to her baby's head while her sister is getting raped in front of her eyes by another mutant.
It's rough.
And we said, nah.
That's enough of that.
Seems like a pretty reasonable choice.
I think I'm done with this one.
It was also, I think, wasn't the actress who played Claire and Lost, the daughter in that movie.
Yeah.
And that was at a time when that was hot shit for the three of us. I think we were all pretty big fans during the show's run. So
don't fuck with Claire, son.
I mean, it's pretty, because it's like somebody you're already fond of, and it's like, oh, Claire's in a movie.
Oh, hey.
And then she gets fucking raped by mutants. So it's kind of rough.
Yeah. I walked out of Quarantine, the movie Quarantine. I don't remember what the exact scene was, but it was super gross.
That's surprising to me.
And I was not about it. I've never finished it, actually. So
that one doesn't strike me as a walkout movie for you, or for me, certainly. I like that movie. But
I don't remember any other movie I've walked out of. No.
Yeah. No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
I'm mostly just hold. I was thinking that maybe The Found, but I actually sat through that.
Yeah.
I thought about walking out.
Yeah.
That movie was very frustrating to me. But
I once walked out of Rebound with Martin Lawrence, but that's really because I was supposed to be working at the time.
Yeah, there's got to be countless movies where it's like, oh shit, I don't want to get caught.
I'm supposed to be cleaning.
It was a 100% empty theater, and I was like, well, I'm just
Randy sitting in the middle.
I just sat there and watched some Rebound with Martin Lawrence for about a half an hour, and then I was like, this is not worth being paid to see.
Our boss comes stroll.
I was actually making money to watch that movie, and it was not enough to keep me in the seat. So.
I think I'd rather clean a urinal than watch
I'm gonna go sweep
Rebound
some
with
pop.
Martin.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go clean a turd out of the urinal instead. That sounds pretty good. To step up.
Why do people shit in urinals? This is our side
minimum wage employees who are in high school pick up their shit. That's it.
Did that happen to you? I never cleaned it.
Oh, I never had to. I knew that happened though. I never had to, and I certainly would have said no.
I remember.
Were we supposed to clean them?
Make me a manager and pay me $5 more an hour, which would effectively double my pay.
Somebody did shit in the urinal one night, and one of the managers told me to clean it up, and I was just like, "No, I make $5 an hour. I'm not picking up human shit."
That's the correct response. It's like, I'm not. Yeah.
I'll
you
just
deal with the
fire
biohazard,
me.
motherfucker. Yeah.
And he was like, okay.
Also, I just don't even think that was in our job description.
No, that's crazy.
No, I mean,
Bathrooms?
I don't want to get into all that necessarily, but I will say that if you ask a minimum wage employee who doesn't even care if people sneak into the theater right under their nose
Pick up
to clean human
shit,
shit, the obvious answer is no. I'm not going to do that. I don't get paid enough to fucking sweep all the popcorn on the floor. You think I'm going to clean shit? Get out of here. Get out of here.
Anyways, that's the end of that segment. We could start so many side podcasts.
We really could. We should just,
We could.
We could make
Following
a whole
Let's
podcast
Get
about the 6
Physical
months
Property.
we worked at fucking
We're going to have a Work at the Movie Theater podcast. We're going to have a Rage
Let's
and
just
Randy
exploit all of
podcast.
our experiences in life
Everything we've lived through.
Patreon money.
Again, if you are listening and want to call, you want to call in and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. We've done this once before, but I thought we got some really cool stories out of it, so I wanted to pose it again since this was like a ghost movie that we watched this week.
Ghost?
This was not approved.
Like a haunted house type movie. Well, we had people.
There's an appeals process for this, Ron.
We had people
There's
call
paperwork that needs to be filled out.
We had people call in once and share their ghost stories. People had experienced some paranormal stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool. I wanted to throw that question out there again. If you've seen some ghosts or aliens or anything kind of strange, or like heard anything kind of strange, if you experience something paranormal,
what if
call in and share your story with us?
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
If you smell the ghost fart, we really want to know about it.
We want to hear about your ghost fart.
Yeah.
And
the old brown ghosty creeping in.
The brown ghost. That's the most devious ghost of all.
That is such a throwback. The old brown ghosty. Holy shit.
I think there's a brown ghost in here.
In my drawers.
We want to hear about
Speaking
your
of
brown
me.
ghosts. 904.
Actually, just tell us about a time you farted in public and it was embarrassing or
I thought
funny.
that shit was hilarious.
Tell us about your brown ghosts in public.
Yeah. All the times you crop dusted your coworkers. We want to know about that.
Tell us about the most sad you've been after blaming it on the wrong person.
That's
the most
dark
regret you've ever felt.
Damn.
I'm a monster.
It was
I regret nothing.
904-638-3231. We want to hear from you. That's going to do it this week on Straight Chilling. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. Next week, we're going to be talking about a movie that was chosen by Randy Gandy G. Landy himself.
Randy, this is your favorite movie that you want to watch?
What are we
This is a
talking
movie
about?
that I think really speaks to the heart of what makes me tick.
Yeah, what you're about.
Yeah, this is what I'm all about, this movie. It's a movie called Antichrist. And
okay. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan and have a nice day. No, this is a movie I just watched recently and I was like, I got to put some other people through this. So you guys are my canaries in the coal mine that I've already been in. So prepare to die, basically.
I welcome it. Bob is squirming in his seat. I don't know
Rob
why.
has seen it
I
and
don't
you
know
have not.
anything about this film.
That's the best way to go into it. I knew very little except it had a reputation and that Rob hated it.
What's the reputation it's got that it's fucked
It's
up?
got some gruesome shit.
Okay.
It's got some gruesome shit. I will say that it was less than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But it is definitely and undeniably there.
We've watched some terrible things.
That's true. I would say
I'm
it ranks.
jaded.
I would say it ranks. I wouldn't. It's not the most gruesome thing I've ever seen. I will say that.
We've covered worse
Right.
for sure, but this movie just Come
5 stars then.
It's got
All right,
Willem
here we
Dafoe
go.
in it. I'll tell you that.
Hey, I
Willem's a
appreciate
good-
that.
Yeah, Willem's. You get a lot of Willem in this. Let's say that.
Antichrist from 2009. Watch it. Get ready for next week. I'm going to go ahead and apologize on behalf of Randy for ruining 2 hours of your life.
Don't.
Whoa.
Okay, Mom. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Jesus Christ.
Until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join us on our daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join up on Slack. Don't forget about our Joe Bob Live Watch next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think that's all I got. So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Panina!
Ah!